Why did I even come in here? Oh, right.
What's
Harlan
going
Way.
on with you?
You.
I hope I can help.
I'm sure I must have
Can I interest
intended
you
to
in
sell
some of my
something to her, I
wares?
guess. I'm gonna be honest, I'm sure a lot of you are
You got a
losing
great
focus the
deal
same
there.
way that I am. I hope that by now you're
A good
realizing
price
that
or a
Kurt
good
Saxon was
seems a
anything
fair
but
price.
ordinary. In the same way that this is anything but an
That's a
ordinary
good
Oblivion run. We're going to be doing this. I've dug in like a tick, and we are set to continue this farce until the very end of the game. And why not? Oh, forgot I had that. That'll come in handy later. And why
pleasure.
not? They designed the game,
Take care.
they built the leveling system to work like this, so clearly they must have wanted us to play the game this way, right? That's right, Bethesda, this is your fault. All of this is your fault. Now, don't worry, I don't think that we will be leveling up athletics or acrobatics much longer. We're just going to get them to 20, maybe 25. After that, most of the speed leveling will come from training and light armor. But in the spirit of things, I think it's best that we make sure that endurance is leveled up to gets its 10 points first. So block and heavy armor it is. And we're going to go see our friend Mr. Rat. Yes, good old Mr. Rat, who teaches us all the secrets that we can find here, hidden in the corner. A lot of things that may seem insane on the surface may actually have a point. A very valid and important point. Much like every single choice in this run. It seems like it would be nonsensical. Why would you just stand here and let yourself get hit by a rat? Well, that's the most efficient way to safely level up your heavy armor. Same goes for block. See? Look at that. Oh. And Kurt Saxon, though unorthodox, had a very important set of reasons for why he set about doing what he did, and formed his own company, Atlan Foundations. And though I've spent most of this segment so far giving you some of his spicier takes, and to be sure, there are spicier takes to come, but he also did have a few things to say about survivalism, and I want to work that into this as well. But first, I think it's best that I take a step back and let Mr. Saxon speak for himself. Let him tell us why he did what he did and how he went about doing what he went about doing. So, without further ado, take it away, Mr. Saxon.
Welcome to the Kurt Saxon Show, your countdown to the future. First, I want you to take down my phone number in case you want to call. The number is 501-437-2963. In case you didn't get it, here it is again. 501-437-2963. Sorry, but we can't accept collect calls. First, I'm going to share with you my editorial, The Purpose Behind Atlan. Atlan Formularies is my firm name. When it's over, call the number. The most critical time in the history of our species is nearly upon us. This is an exaggeration. It might even be an understatement. The understatement being that not only our own species, but most mammalian life could die along with us. Let me give you a short review. In 1850, for the first time in history, our species hit the 1 billion mark. Only 80 years later, in 1930, it doubled to 2 billion. Then, by 1975, in only 45 years, it doubled again to 4 billion. A year later, 1976, I began The Survivor. I could see our planet being swamped by hordes of people born only to consume and pollute. Already, the infant mortality rates in third world countries were rising. This was an actual blessing, as had they all lived, today's population would approach 7 billion. In 1976, there was a greater threat of nuclear war. Our economy was shaky but not critical. We were sliding into a recession which hit pretty hard in 1980. This was mostly on paper, however, and most survivalists were more concerned with the communist takeover than nuclear war. The recession of that time deepened. More people predicted an economic collapse. Then Reagan got into office as the man on the white horse. He would solve all the problems. He solved nothing. But he was a great propagandist. All he did was to stop the clock. With masterful economic juggling, he gave the economy the appearance of health and stability, which it simply didn't have. When Reagan became president, America was the greatest lender nation. Only 4 years later, America was the greatest debtor nation. The national debt was a modest several hundred billion. Through Reagan's manipulation of the economy, continued by Bush, our national debt climbed to $3 trillion. A trillion is 1,000 billion. Today, it's over 4 trillion. Without going deeply into high-level economics, that means the U.S. government has to come up with billions in interest which must be paid. That means less taxpayer money poured back into the economy. So when an industry, big business, etc., gets into trouble, it can't borrow from the government. It must sell to the Japanese. Big cities can't get operating money from the government, so they must cut social services like the upkeep of sewage systems, etc. They can't pay so many police and firemen, so more of them get laid off. Of course, the welfare recipients continue to have as many children as biology allows, further bankrupting the cities. The undercurrents of the Middle East war sapped $200 billion from the domestic economy, and the war spending took another $50 billion plus. Most people don't know how much a billion is. It would make 1,000 people millionaires. Speaking of people, do you know how many a billion people are? Today's U.S. population is somewhat over 250 million. In 1900, it was only 50 million. A billion people is 4 times our own population. And anyone who doesn't realize the U.S. itself is overpopulated just doesn't get around much. Directly or indirectly, the threat to our economy stems from our own surplus population. Nearly every city of 100,000 population is dirty, crime-ridden, and run down. Every city of 1 million or more is dirty, crime-ridden, run down, and bankrupt. The principle of too many people overloading any system is universal. Every city on Earth was designed for less people than it has now. No system, no matter how well planned or designed, can absorb an infinite number of people. A perfect example is communism, a system whose promoters boasted that there was no such thing as overpopulation. The Russian Empire has collapsed, but it wasn't because communism didn't work. Communism never did work. Russian communism was basically a parasitic system, annexing territory and then draining resources from that territory. When Russia's territories could not sustain her surplus population of over 300 million people, Russia's communism ended. Rome, like modern Russia, also annexed and drained her territories until there was no more to loot. And as her own population grew, along with those of her vassal nations, population and poverty equaled collapse. Nothing really changes, friend. There has never been a major war not caused by a surplus population. Hitler is best remembered for his ranting against the Jews, but that was minor compared to his call for Lebensraum, or living space. Germany had 40 million people, although her land area and state of technology could only support half that. It was this which gave him his national following. Hitler also ranted against his neighbors as inferior and subhuman. This was simply a rationalization the German people accepted as a justification for taking their territory. President Ulysses S. Grant was little different from Hitler, as were the American people in regards to the Indians. The only good Indian is a dead Indian. America's cities were dirty, run down, crime-ridden, and overpopulated, so the whites wanted the Indian territories. The Indians were nearly exterminated, and the survivors were confined to reservations or concentration camps. Again, nothing really changes. In the 30s, Japan had 70 million people in an area the size of California. California today has over 20 million people and is in real trouble. Japan had to take territory or die. After her drubbing by the U.S., she settled for economic annexation. Now other foreigners are hard put to buy property in America because the Japanese won't sell it. But Japan's population has reached 120 million. She's draining the world's resources to feed that ridiculous overpopulation. She's denuding the world's forests, raping the oceans, and generally sapping the economies of the very nations she depends on to keep her own people alive. Before long, those resources will dry up at about the same time as her overseas customers lose their ability to buy her goods. Her time is about up. Today, the most visible signs of the effects of overpopulation are in the Kurds, the Bangladeshis, and in Africa. Iraq is a small country with little arable land, no industry, and 14 million Muslims doing their best to increase their numbers. The Kurds are Iraq's figurative Jews. Although Saddam had done his best to exterminate them in the past, Bush's encouraging them to revolt gave Saddam the perfect excuse to reduce Iraq's surplus population by wiping the Kurds off the face of the earth. But that's not the point. Africa's overall surplus populations have been making war a necessity and famine its result. But that's not the point either. Bangladesh has 118 million people living on what amounts to a sandbar the size of Wisconsin. Flooding has been washing more of them away yearly due largely to the surplus Chinese and surplus Indians denuding the forests of the Himalayas, causing more intense runoffs. The recent cyclone may be the result of the Kuwait oil fields pouring the smoke from 600 burning oil wells way up into the stratosphere daily. Still not the point. The real point is that the world is being desensitized to the suffering of semi-literates breeding like rats and finally paying the price. And part of the point is that the West is about to see the beginnings of the massive die-offs to come all over the planet as we simply run out of surplus food and resources to squander on surplus peoples. As populations increase and this natural desensitization continues, more wars will break out and more suffering will be ignored, if not applauded. 1990 was the hottest year in recorded history worldwide. As the greenhouse effect increases, crops will diminish and the third world will experience die-offs numbering in the billions. By this time, North America will be fighting off Mexicans and shooting Cuban refugees. Europe will be 1,000 battlefields. This won't happen overnight. America's collapse will be gradual. First, the violent predators will be shot on sight by police and private citizens. As the cities become uninhabitable, urbanites will become refugees. When the rurals have absorbed a certain amount, they'll begin shooting belligerent starvelings. The idea of neighbors turning on each other is a widely accepted mistake. Instead, neighbors will band together against outsiders. Now to the purpose behind Atlan formularies. When in the 60s I realized our civilization was going the way of Rome, I set about collecting 19th and early 20th century technology as a base on which to rebuild. Unlike some, I wasn't interested in living off the land, hoping my bidders would put things back together while I hid out in the woods. Nor was I going to promote the idea of battening down with piles of commercial survival foods and with guns aimed at my neighbors. My overplan was to provide people with the simple skills and a genteel 19th century lifestyle whereby they could be useful and necessary. This would decrease the need to fear and hate their neighbors, or to loot them, or to be looted by them. In the tales of Atlantis, after the sinking of the continent, outlying colonies reverted to savagery without the technology of the motherland. When Rome fell, all Europe slid into a dark age, 1,000 years of ignorance, savagery, religious fanaticism, and hatred. The Dark Age ended when the Black Plague wiped out half of Britain and a third of continental Europe. It took out the lower classes and pretty effectively eliminated the surplus population. There was such a shortage of brute labor that the era of the intellectual dawned. The thoughtful and inventive set about raising the level of technology, and this was called the Renaissance, or rebirth. The coming international collapse, probably horrible beyond description, will give rise to a new Renaissance. Up to 9/10 of the Earth's human population may die, but those with the courage and intelligence to come through will be the elite of our species. To make it easier for individuals and communities, I've collected just the knowledge needed to maintain our culture until the best among us get organized. It shows how your great-great-grandparents coped and produced all their needs both for use and to sell. Once the initial strife has died down, those with a collection of Atlan books can ensure themselves and their communities all the comforts needed to free them to progress. In time, a far brighter, braver, and more responsible society will take us to the stars. All right, here I am, so here's my first call. Hello.
Well, Mr. Saxon.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you a couple questions, if I may, about Arkansas. Could I?
Sure.
I understand that the Rockefellers control Arkansas.
Nobody controls Arkansas. That's why we're so poor.
Well, wasn't that reasons to poor? Hey, didn't Rockefeller, wasn't one of those boys the governor down there?
I don't think so. I don't know anything about who was governor. The only governor I know of in Arkansas was Clinton, and luckily the good people of Arkansas who knew how to vote voted him out of the state.
Well, there was a Rockefeller. He was governor of the state, and I understand that he took the Clintons under his wing and taught him a great many things about being dishonest and everything else like that, you know.
Oh, well, I think the Clinton family learned about how to be dishonest from their ancestors. I don't think they needed any lessons from the Rockefellers, but I don't think anybody could really teach Clinton anything. He was such a loser.
Yeah.
He'd have probably been tarred and feathered and run out of the state if he hadn't gotten president.
That's right. Hey, also, Mr. Saxon, yesterday you and a caller were discussing gun control. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I believe you said that we really don't have to worry about them confiscating our weapons because the FBI or the alcohol and tobacco people just don't have enough people to enforce that law. Is that correct?
That's right.
Well, you know, sir, that we are a member of the communist organization called United Nations.
Well, I'm not. Are you?
No, I'm not. Our government is, though.
Well, speak for yourself when you say we. Our government is so debilitated now, I don't know, maybe it wants to get a membership into something like that. Maybe it would give it some false hope. But it doesn't bother me.
No, but you know, when they want to take our weapons from us, that's what they'll do. They'll bring in the United Nations Army.
Well, if the United Nations Army collects our weapons the way they collected the weapons in Somalia, I don't think there's much to be afraid of.
Yeah, but you know, also our police force will be involved in that.
Yeah, well, when the Watts riots broke out, the police went in there without bullets in their guns, and they never shot any looters or rioters. They didn't collect their weapons, did they?
No.
Well, so what good are the police forces? I mean, the gangs run Los Angeles County. There's 165,000 dummies running around better armed than the police.
Yeah. But you know, the United Nations, they will send in their troops because our government will ask for them.
Well, they got those pretty blue helmets. They make real good targets. They really stand out.
Yeah. Have you seen a picture of our forces over there in Somalia, you know, with those blue helmets on and carrying a United Nations flag?
I don't know of our forces with the blue helmets.
Yes, our forces.
Well, that's sort of disgraceful, isn't it? Because they weren't able to subdue a bunch of ignorant savages. And I think that even the blacks in our country are quite a few levels above the Somalis.
Yes, I'd say so. But also they was carrying the United Nations flag, you know.
Yes, they well, I don't remember seeing that. Maybe you noted it. But if it's so, then I would say that the American forces have degenerated remarkably since they were a fighting force like they were in the Second World War. I think after that, our forces have really gone down, mainly because of poor leadership.
Well, you know, we had the right leadership because our leadership gave away our fighting forces to the United Nations when we joined the United Nations.
Well, I didn't join the United Nations, did you?
No, our government did, but we've got these people representing us, though.
They don't represent me. Do they represent you?
No, they don't, but they're supposedly representative with the people.
Well, you see, they're not doing it. They're not doing anything. They're just, I think Clinton infected the whole government with a do-nothing ignoramus policy. They're just not doing anything. We're on our own, buddy.
Okay, sir, then. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye. All right, now, I didn't want to make fun of the man, and I'm sure that he was sincere, but you've got to realize that we don't have any government. And so in order to make amends for that, you're going to have to take care of yourself. We got another caller coming in. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
How are you doing tonight?
Doing fine.
Good. I just wonder if you've ever seen the video America in Peril. Have you?
Not that I don't think so.
Because a lot of what the fellow just called in referred to that video.
Yes.
There are a lot of things. For example, have you heard of the, I believe it's called FEMA?
That's the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Right. And under FEMA, did you know that they have more or less concentration or deterrent camps to confiscate the men, women, or to collect the men, women, and children, separate the men from the women and children, and workforce going. And apparently, this is part of it's being based on the ones that want to pick up are ex-military personnel, police that don't want to go along with this new concept of a United Nations government.
Yeah. Well, where are these camps situated?
Well, here in Michigan, apparently we have 3. I know there's supposed to be one by Battle Creek, which is in the southwest corner of the state, I believe.
Do they have any of the savages rampaging in Detroit in those camps?
Oh, of course not. No, it'll be law-abiding citizens. They're going around now. Apparently, the BATF is going around to federal firearms dealers and collecting names and addresses of people that have purchased guns, especially some of the semi-quote assault weapons.
Yes.
And in preparation for this great takeover.
Well, I think that their record so far has been so poor that if they should try to institute something like that, there'd be a revolution that would really be hot, and it would actually be fun. But I don't think you need to worry about it until you see those turkeys with the blue helmets.
Right. Well, that's one thing, but you just never know when they're going to come, especially with the training of foreign troops on our soil. We have a camp called Camp Grayling here in Michigan.
Yes.
Originally for National Guard, and it was originally given to the state of Michigan strictly for the National Guard use. And there was supposed to be no foreign personnel being trained in this country. Or being trained there. Well, that's not the case now.
Well, they've been training foreign personnel for generations.
Right. They weren't supposed to be here in this National Guard camp.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I would rather train some foreigner to go home and fight for his country than send Americans to fight there, wouldn't you?
Like Nelson Mandela guards, right.
Well, I don't know about
we train those over here, too.
Well,
I just wonder if you ever have a chance, and you do get a chance to see it, America in Peril. It's quite a video to see.
Well, America is in peril.
Certainly is.
But I think you ought to look at the general things that are affecting America, which is the social degeneration.
Oh, definitely. Well, we've got it in Michigan here in Detroit, for example.
Yes. You see, in Detroit, you've got such a mess. You've got a welfare load. You've got a crime problem. You have city government out of control, underfunded, understaffed, and what staff there is incompetent.
Right.
And so you spread that nationwide, and you have a country going down the tubes.
We sure do.
And I should think that if they should bring in the UN, where would they bring them from where they weren't in more trouble in their own countries? Would they bring them from Yugoslavia?
Well, there's a lot of countries to pull from. What are the, for example, they're training in Colorado, I believe it is, the Gurkhas?
Gurkhas.
Yeah, for example, that's one group.
They're the finest fighting unit in the world.
That's right.
They don't need to be trained here. They're trained by British personnel and the best.
Right, but they're also on maneuvers here too.
No, that's you have been lied to.
Is that right? They're not being on maneuvers, joint maneuvers.
I'm a great fan of the Gurkhas. My uncle, who fought in the Second World War, brought home Gurkha knives, and he told me about the Gurkhas, and I followed them up. I watch every documentary on the Gurkhas, and the Gurkhas are Himalayan troops,
right?
Loyal to Indians. No, they're not exactly mercenaries. They're like the French Foreign Legion, only they fight for Britain.
Right, I understand. They're really an outstanding force, right?
They are, and they don't need to be trained by Americans. The British do a very good job, and I think if the Gurkhas are going to fight anybody, they'd be fighting in London.
Well, it sounds like they might need it over there too. No, I didn't.
Well, no, the point I'm making is that any foreign troops being trained here would have to go home and fight, because there's no country on this planet that doesn't need a good, well-regulated militia to take care of what's coming. They're not going to leave their own countries in chaos to come over here.
Right. Well, if we're left with enough arms to have a well-balanced militia.
Well, it's like I told you last night, friend. We've got over 200 million rifles, shotguns, and handguns owned by civilians here.
Right, right.
And the civilians in the United States outgun every army on Earth. And as I said last night, in California, there are over 300,000 assault weapons, or at least semi-automatics,
right.
And the California government has demanded their registration, and only about 15,000 or more have been registered. The average owner of such a gun doesn't even pay attention to the law.
Well, I have to agree there. I guess we can't.
Okay, you see, if you can't enforce a simple law like that, you can't even begin confiscation. And besides, if you were a subscriber to U.S. militia, you would know how to make weapons that are even more devastating.
Well, as they say, the check is in the mail, so it is.
Yeah.
So I will be.
Oh, you're going to love it when you get your first 3 issues.
Good.
Well, if you started with the $10 packet, that will give you an introduction.
Right, that's what I did. So.
Okay, so you'll be ordering the rest of them, and you'll have a ball.
Okay, well, I'll let you off the hook. Nice talking to you.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
Oh, incidentally, just in case you don't have it, my phone number is 501-437-2963. My mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas. That's A-L-P-E-N-A, Arkansas, 72611. And what I'm promoting right now is the $10 packet with a sample copy of U.S. Militia, the only magazine for community defense and the hottest item in the weapons field, and a sample copy of Shoestring Entrepreneur, which will teach you how to sell anything that you can make or grow. Get yourself into your own business. That's the best hedge against inflation and chaos and whatever. Also, David Koresh's Last Testament, his letter to the FBI, to his lawyers, a few poems and articles about him, by him, and where he started working on his interpretation of the Seven Seals, and some pictures, and it's a very good little book. And also, you'd get a $5 credit on a subscription to either U.S. Militia or the Shoestring Entrepreneur. So you just order that, and you'd be very satisfied with it. And it would open you up to a field of literature, which is like banned in Canada and Australia. And but you can get it. Well, actually, I don't care. Wherever you are in the world, you order it and you'll get it. See, it might be against the law for you to have it, but it's not against the law for me to sell it. And if it was, I'd smuggle it. So don't worry. If you order it, you're going to get it, and you'll have information that will take care of you, your family, and your community, no matter what comes down. And you're the very type of people that we need to outlast this bunch of dummies in the White House and in Bonn and Yugoslavia and everybody running Russia or not running Russia. So the world is going down the tubes, but you don't have to go with it. So just remember now, my phone number is 501-437-2963. Oh, and incidentally, while I'm giving my little talk at first, I'd rather you didn't call me. Just wait until I'm through with that. So is there another call coming through? Well, I guess not for the minute. But, oh, here's one. Hello?
Hello, Kurt.
Yes.
I wanted to call to thank you for inspiring me over the years. I'm a longtime reader of The Survivor and Poor Man's James Bond and a lot of other publications that came out of Atlantis.
Well, I'm glad you like them.
I want to thank you for inspiring me to move out of the big city. It was 10 years ago that I decided to do it, and it took me 5 years to save the money to do it.
Yes.
And I've been living in Idaho for 5 years. Well, I bought my home here 5 years ago, and it took me several more years to save the money to move here permanently. And I want to thank you for being such an inspiration. I'm now self-employed. I run a mail-order business selling gun accessories.
Wonderful.
And I'm very happy to be living in a low population density area away from the big cities.
Yes.
I wanted to get your advice on what you think would be good home-based businesses for the next few years.
Well, are you a subscriber to Shoestring Entrepreneur?
Not yet. I've already sent in for your $10 packet, but I thought for the listening audience, you might run down a list of some good sources of self-employment. I'm probably going to have another source of self-employment here pretty quick because my current self-employment is about to be legislated away. Yeah. I mainly sell large-capacity clips and magazines, which just got banned by the United States Senate, anything over 10 rounds.
They say they're going to ban them. I wonder when they'll actually do it.
Well, they've already done it in New Jersey, in Chicago, in Hawaii.
Well, now, Hawaii is a beautiful place, and if I went there, I'd be glad if no one had a gun. But as far as New Jersey, and where was the other place you mentioned?
Chicago.
Oh, for pities. I lived in Chicago. It was a nice place then, but it's just a hell now. And anybody stupid enough to live in Chicago, come on.
Any recommendations on good mail-order businesses to run or other good sources of self-employment? Just the outside chance that this source of employment does go away.
Do you have a set of the survivors?
Oh, yeah.
Well, then you should go through them. I'm sure you could find many alternatives to what you're doing.
Okay.
But I would keep on selling those. Sell your gun parts. Just keep on selling them until about a year after they are forbidden by federal law.
Uh-huh.
See, I mean, when...
But at this point, I'm selling clips and magazines so quickly I can't keep them in stock, and I'm running out of sources of supply.
Well, keep on selling them, and maybe about a year or two after the federal people say that you'll go to prison for doing it, maybe they'll knock on your door and tell you to stop selling them. But there's little else they can do. But as far as... well, I was just thinking last night, one of your best things to do would be raise chickens.
We already raise chickens and rabbits.
Okay, well, wonderful.
Bring in dairy goats soon.
Oh, good. Well, you see, as long as you're raising food, you can't go wrong. You're in good shape. You can. Eggs are going to be a fantastic barter item. Eggs will be currency.
Mm-hmm. I figure eggs and ammunition.
Yes, eggs and ammunition. And so a person like you can make it no matter what.
Okay, I appreciate that, Kurt. Thank you much, and I'll let someone else get on.
Okay, bye-bye for now. Anyway, the man started asking about Arkansas, but all he seemed to wanted to know was what the federal government and all of the foreign countries were doing about this country. It had really nothing to do with Arkansas. I never heard of the Rockefellers having anything to do with Arkansas, but then us hillbillies aren't really interested in politics. Here's another call. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Hello, Kurt. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
I've heard you on several shows, and now I'm glad to pick you up with your own show.
Well, I got kicked off several shows. It just seems like once I get on a show, the audience likes me, but the sponsors don't.
Well, I've heard you on Paul Gonzalez a couple of times. And,
well, I'll be on that on January 11th.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the information you put out. Kurt, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
These magazines or pamphlets you're passing out now for this $10 package.
Yeah.
What would it take to get the Survivor and the James Bond and all that?
Well, when you get the packet, that describes all of my books and tapes and how to order them and how much they cost. And if you're a subscriber to either Shoestring Entrepreneur or U.S. Militia, you get all of my books at 10% off. And our service is very quick. You should specify if you want UPS, because that's a good deal quicker, because the books go out book rate, and that can sometimes take a couple of weeks. But UPS will get you what you order within a week.
Yeah, I like Yeah, I like the way UPS handles things.
Yeah. Well, you see, the mail service is. There are billions and billions of pieces of mail go through the mail every week or month or whatever, and they do have a fantastic job to do, and actually they do a very good job with the volume that they have to contend with.
Right.
But they're not nearly as fast.
Send a money order, make it out to Kurt Saxon, or...
That's fine.
Okay, and that's Box 93, Alpena.
No, P.O. Box 95.
Right, P.O. Box 95.
Alpena, A-L-P-E-N-A,
right.
Arkansas, 72611.
Wait a minute,
72611.
72611. Okay, Kurt, sounds good. Hey, these people calling up worried about all this UN troops and everything else. I agree with you, Kurt. There's a hell of a lot of people in this country, and there's just no way you can disarm them all.
No. Well, you see, I'm old enough to know when the UN first started, and it was a joke then, and it's a worse joke now.
Right. I'm retired military, and like I said, it is a joke, and these people are worrying unnecessarily. You just think about this country, how massive it is, the mountainous territories, the bayous. Just think of all the massiveness of it. There's no way. No way, Kurt. I agree with you 100%.
Also, the feds are actually afraid of rural people.
There you go. You're exactly right. And,
it's... By the way, where are you calling from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. That's a good state to live in.
Yes, sir. It's fairly decent.
I got a lot of customers in North Carolina.
But anyway, let's pass it on to these people that's worrying too much. Stop your worrying. Everything's going to be fine. We're all right.
To prepare.
That's right. Prepare, and don't worry about these clowns that just talk. That's all it is, just talk. Ignore it.
Yes.
Okay, Kurt, have a good evening. Nice talking to you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Anyway, let's see, I sort of lost my train of thought. Let's see, talking about Arkansas. Well, Arkansas is a rural state, and we got about 2.5 million people here, about the same amount as in Chicago, Illinois. Oh, I got me another call. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Hello, Kurt. How you doing?
Doing fine. Who are you?
I'm Dan from Nebraska.
Hi, Dan.
And I just started picking you up last night on the radio.
Well, I'm going to be on every night.
And I really enjoyed your show.
Well, thank you. We had problems last night.
I heard that. There was or something, right?
Well, I had disconnected the flasher, and then when I connected it back, I guess I didn't push it in far enough. And then when I fiddled with it, it got back on. But I didn't know enough to fiddle with it until about halfway through the show. But it's okay now.
Well, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with some of your work, and I really appreciate it. It's well needed.
Well, I'm glad.
And there was a Winthrop Rockefeller. I guess it was kind of a big shot somewhere in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Long time ago, past history, you know.
Yeah. Oh, he probably carpetbagger.
Yeah, I'm sure. And the main reason I called is because you're right on the head. You know, the government wants everybody to fear all these so-called United Nations troops.
Yeah.
Gun confiscation. Where they're going to do this, they're going to do that. They can't even wipe their own butts.
No, they can't.
Much less take our country away from us.
No, they can't. They can never.
We're not going to give it up.
No, of course not.
I mean, that's all we have to do is make up our mind. We're not going to give it up.
Well, that's right. Well, you see, they'll be sitting in Washington when the fires start.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. is the most crime-ridden area in the whole country, and I don't think any politician is safe. And when it hits the fan, Washington is going to go down so quick you would be surprised.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised. I agree with you.
And all those silly politicians being based there, well, and the ones that are based around the country, they'll probably get the message and they'll run for the hills themselves. But
I wrote our politicians from this state, and I told them to stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want them.
No.
They can stay there for all I care.
Well, I think the politicians in this country are going to suffer the fate of the aristocracy in France when the people got enough of them.
Yep.
And the old guillotine, I don't know if, well, we'll have the hanging noose instead of the guillotine, but I think just about all the politicians, especially the Kennedys, will be hanged.
Yeah, well, that'd be a great day in America.
Well, it'll happen.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, I better let you go. My dog's raising heck.
I hear him, but you feed him.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye. Anyway, back to Arkansas. That's where I live, and I love the place. I live in a little place called Alpena, and it doesn't have a police station. And if there's any trouble, we have to call the sheriff in Harrison, but they seldom get any call. They just lay around because everybody here is armed. And, well, this part of the country, everybody is armed, so we have very little crime at all. Now, when I was up doing the Jerry Springer show in Chicago, I got there in my hotel room about 12 o'clock, and I was supposed to go on the next day. So I listened to their news all day, and my goodness, I could assure you that there is more crime in the city of Chicago than there is in the whole state of Arkansas, because everybody here is armed. Now, in Hollister, Missouri, a couple of miles north of the Missouri border, it's against the law not to have a gun. And the only thing that their police have to do is like traffic accidents, domestic quarrels, and things like that. And there's not too many domestic quarrels either. So they don't have any crime problem. Arkansas has very little crime. It has, I should say it has considerably less than Chicago. Because, like I said, everyone's armed. Everyone knows everyone's armed. And so they don't get about and bully each other because they know they could get shot. And occasionally when somebody does get shot, the police just note it down in their books and forget it. Because if somebody gets shot, the attitude is more or less, well, if this guy doesn't care, we don't care. If he's going to be a fool, he's going to die. And so they just write him off, put him in the body bag, and throw him away someplace. And that is as it should be. And that's the way it's going to be more and more as time goes on. Incidentally, in case you forgot my phone number, it's 501-437-2963. And my mailing address for the $10 packet of information, the sample copy of U.S. Militia, Shoestring Entrepreneur, and David Koresh's Last Testament is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, A-L-P-E-N-A, Arkansas, 72611. Here's another call. Hello there.
Hello, Kurt. This is Warren in Mississippi. Real pleasure to hear you on the air. I discovered your books about 3 years ago, and I have quite a library now of yours and other publications.
Yes.
And I'm real excited to hear you on the air. This is going to really be nice.
Well, I'm going to be on every night from now on. Well, 5 nights a week.
Well, that's really terrific. About 5 years ago, I moved out into the country and got it all paid for. So when it comes down, I got my chickens in my truck garden. So really good luck on the show there.
Well, you'll have good luck, too.
I'm going to write your letter come Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Anyway, Arkansas has a very crime-free population, and there's not a lot of brilliant people here. But another call. Here we go. Hello there.
Hello, Kurt.
Yes.
This is Tom Payne from New York.
Oh, you're named after my idol.
Junior.
Yes.
I've written a small booklet, and I think it might be interesting to you. If you'd like, I'll send you a copy called Beyond the Law.
Love a copy.
U.S. Citizens Guide to Extradition.
Mm-hmm.
Deals with international extradition.
Yes. I don't know how appropriate that would be, but...
Well, I think it flows into... some of the topics that you were mentioning earlier. I've just started here on Shortwave, your program.
Well, wouldn't that have to do with somebody commits a crime in one country and then flees to another and then they can get him back?
Well, much like, for example, with the gun laws that are being enacted right now, a lot of people are being made instant criminals.
Yes.
Are also people that were never criminals in the past, say, for example, child custody disputes are being made criminals.
Yes.
And a lot of these people can't, they got three choices. They can either submit.
Well, do you have it published?
I'm just finished writing it. I've got a few preliminary copies.
Well, when you publish it, then I'll give it a plug.
Well, I'd like you to look at it, and I just wanted your intellect to analyze it. And see what your thoughts are, but I do want to say it's a pleasure to hear you on the radio.
Well, I'm glad you're writing a book, and I'll be glad to look at it for you, and I'll see if I can't help you promote it.
That'd be fine. I just wanted to let you hear that I read what I can get a hold of, your copies of Survivors, and it was part of my inspiration.
Well, have you sent for the $10 packet, or are you already a subscriber?
I just heard it tonight, and I will do it tomorrow morning.
Okay. Well, you do that, and you'll be surprised and happy with what you get. Nice thing about my material is people will call me and write me, and they'll tell me things to the effect that they usually get stuff in the mail, and they find it's much less than they hoped for. But when they get mine, it's a lot more than they expected.
And more value for your money.
That's what I want to do.
It's un-American, you realize. You'll never make corporate America at this rate.
Well, I don't want to be part of corporate America because corporate America is doomed.
We both know that. We're still in the minority.
Yeah.
But I just want to give you kudos. I'm glad that you're getting a larger audience.
Well, I hope so. Just tell your friends if they've got shortwave, or invite them over. We're going to be selling the tapes, too. Well, my producer's making them up. He's going to be selling the whole week's tapes for $25 postpaid. You can't beat that. And as time goes on, they will be more polished. We'll get our equipment so we can understand it properly, and everything will be fine. And so you can get a nice collection of these tapes.
Good. I look forward to it. I'll send out my information pack request, and I'll send you a copy of that.
Okay, I'd be glad to see it.
And we'll go from there.
Okay, buddy.
Congratulations. I'm grateful for your information.
Okay.
Bye now, Kurt.
Bye for now. Well, here we are back at the studio. That's what I've heard some of them say, so I should say it too. Oh, another call. Hello.
Oh, Kurt.
Yes.
Hi, it's Rob from Audubon, New Jersey.
Hi, Rob.
How you doing? I called you at home the other night. I don't know.
Well, after we go off the air, it's pretty hard to get me because...
I know. I caught you Tuesday night, though.
Yeah.
At home. Hey, I was wondering if you could give me some suggestions or some books on how to get a new identity.
Oh, well, now, the best way to get a new identity is to grow up, Rob. These new identity books are trash.
Okay, that's why I'm asking you.
They're absolute garbage. Now, the best way, if you're really serious, get a good book on how to be a detective. And you learn how they find out where people are, and then you do just the opposite. But you get these silly books telling you to go to the graveyard and write people's names down, and you'll either be in the graveyard or in prison before you know it.
No, I haven't done any of that. That's why I wanted to ask you.
Yes, well, don't worry about things like that. And besides, think twice about going underground because you don't want to live like a rat. Just pay your little taxes and pay your little child support and be nice and friendly to people because you don't want to get in a hassle.
No.
You don't want to be in the pound when it comes down.
No, not at all. All right, thanks a lot, Kurt.
Sure enough. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right, here I'm back again, and I might just tell you that a tape replay of this show will air on a frequency of 7.435 megahertz between 9 and 10 Central Standard Time. So if you want to pick it up again, here we go with another call. Hello.
Hello, is that Kurt?
Yes.
This is Alan. I'm in London, and I'm just ringing to let you know that I'm receiving you.
Well, I'm glad, Alan. I have a lot of customers in London. Well, all over the United Kingdom, in fact.
Okay, well, I don't know what time it is there in America, Kurt.
It's about 6:45.
It's 12:48 in London.
Yes.
In the morning. I've just finished making a shortwave receiver, and the first station I receive is yours.
Well, you lucky guy, and I'm lucky.
You give the number, so I thought I'd give you a ring.
Yes. Well, you see, you can order any of my material like. Did you get my address?
I got part of it. P.O. Box 95, Arkansas.
It's Alpena, Arkansas.
Alpena.
72611. If you've got the zip code, it'll come right to me no matter what. And everybody in Alpena knows me. They'd rather not, most of them. That's beside the point.
Okay, Kurt. Thanks very much.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad you called.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, here we go again. And if you've missed part of the show, just tune in tonight between 9 and 10 Central Standard Time. And it's at 7.435 megahertz. And you'll hear me again. But it won't be live like it is now. And let's see, now let's get back to Arkansas. Arkansas is a very hilly region. It doesn't have a lot of agribusinesses, except for the southern part of Arkansas, which is the main rice-growing country in the United States. We grow a lot more rice than Japan and maybe even China. And the people are friendly. Well, it seems that I've got about 3 minutes left. I was looking at the clock, and I guess it's just... Okay, so we got 2 minutes left. Oh, we got another caller. We'll try to fit him in. Hello.
Yes, I was gonna ask you what a grain mill is. I'm a new listener to your show. I just called it a few nights.
Okay, did you get the address?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, if you send for that $10 packet, it will describe the grain mill and the shoestring entrepreneur also, and you can read up on it then. But the grain mill is where you can buy grain from the feed and seed store for practically nothing. Like it costs you about $3.50 for 50 pounds of corn, and about $7.33 for 60 pounds of rye, and 56 pounds of wheat equally.
Wow.
And so I'm going to read that again tomorrow so people understand what they can do with the grain mill. But you got something like that, and you're fed for life. I mean, anything you add to it just makes it flavorful. But those grains are fantastic. So you get my packet, and you'll get an introductory to all this, and it'll start you off where you're going to save money and make money, and you're going to secure your future no matter what kind of mess comes down.
Okay, we're picking you up real good in Texas.
Well, I'm glad. So just give my best to everybody in Texas who's got a shortwave radio.
All right, good program.
Okay, thank you again, and bye for now.
Bye.
Now it's sign-off time. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So this is Kurt Saxon saying goodbye and be good.
So study the book, study the tape, and study your own attitudes and your own skill. Take stock of everything, because what we're messing with is more than dynamite. It could be your life.